maybe I need to go to prison to change this country. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be talking to you guys about Adolf Hitler. Now, that quote is not actually from Adolf Hitler, although I have been reading Mein Kampf today because I was in London with some of you guys, which love my life. We went to board games like restaurant, cafe, whatever, and we played games for like 3 hours. And then we went for a walk down by all the nice bits near the river and then we went for some food. Throughout the day, when I've been traveling, I've been reading this and Mein Kampf. And can I just say that Hitler is an incredible writer? Now, the quote that I said at the start of the video, this is why my life happens like perfectly on beat, right? I'm here trying to find my tripod, okay? I'm here trying to find my tripod. Where is it? It's always close by because I always try to keep it close in case and I am ready to film because I've been thinking about stuff and stuff has gone down. I even had another situation happen just before I came back after I got off public transport, and then I met somebody, and the connections to what the person I met, I'm going to explain it all. My life is literally crazy, okay? So I'm trying to find my tripod. So while I'm doing that, I'm like, let me throw on a video in the background to because I'm trying to stop my brain from going so I don't forget to say the stuff in the video. And I go onto YouTube, and this happens all the time. I click on, and there's a video of somebody that I don't follow, and the title just says, if you're watching this video, I'm in prison. Now, this guy has gone to prison. I didn't even get to finish watching the video because I was too excited. He went to prison, I think, from my understanding, for something to do with trying to expose the government, and they basically are suing him for giving military papers to journalists and whatever. And then obviously the comments were saying exactly something I've been thinking. I'm going somewhere with all of this, and I'm actually going to read a passage from this because you guys need to hear this, okay? So all the comments were saying something that I've been thinking and praying a lot about with the Lord, which is that why is it that a lot of times the people going to prison, so someone like him who's trying to help, I think it was with children or something that were being something to do with some kind of evil behavior. But yeah, so the people are so people who do war crimes don't go to prison walking free. People trying to stop war crimes and whatever going to prison. And I've been thinking this to the Lord recently, God, it's not fair. As a woman, I always think all the time, I hate the fact that a lot of men who are really genuinely protective, I'm always thinking of, I don't even want to tell you what happened with such and such because I don't want you to go to prison. This is what I used to do a lot growing up. That's why a lot of things I kept to myself because I didn't want the men that I loved in my life to go to prison. In fact, me and my brother argue about this because he's like, how come you don't tell me when stuff's happening? And it's because I don't want to see my brother in prison. You know what I'm saying? And how is it that we've got P. Diddy's today? Everybody's woken up to the situation because now they've got proof, because everybody's always saying he's desperate for proof, right? And that is really heinous. And then I'm worried that my brother who wants to defend me or my man or other men in my life, I'm worried about them going to prison because they want to do something because something was done to me. It's so backwards, right? And so the reason why I'm bringing this up, and I'm bringing this up with Adolf Hitler, is one thing that I understood from reading this specifically so far. I'm still only in the first chapter, which is about his upbringing. Very interesting, might I add. He's an incredible writer. And actually, it's called In the House of My Parents. And actually, I really think he's an incredible writer. Wow. So what I'm thinking about is how the prison experience and the necessity for one to prepare for the prison experience potentially is so important, because when you believe things, right, if you really believe things the way you say you believe them, you have to be prepared for the risks of things like prison and death. And that is something that is enslaving us as a society. This is why when, what was happening the last few years was going down, I had to just think, so which option am I taking? Am I going to get this jab, or am I going to prepare my mind to go to prison? And then what I was just thinking right now, which I thought was even more interesting thought, was how Joseph in the Bible goes to prison. Joseph goes to prison. What does his prison lead to? Changing the country. And the guy in this video, that's exactly what he says. Maybe I need to go to prison to change this country. And what I've read so far of Adolf Hitler, right? Whatever you think of him, he's a very interesting man, right? He saying that in order for what needs to be done, right? People have to be prepared to fight the system. And it started very early on in his life, because he describes how his dad was a civil servant and his dad wanted him to become a civil servant, and he wanted nothing to do with being a civil servant, right? And how he started to piece together the reasons why Germany was the state, or German Austria is the state that it is. And he pinpointed the problems, right? He literally says this here. This is his, before I read to you about his history teacher and how this all links with education. Who remembers a few months ago when I said, I think my life's about to become about education? So here's something he said. He said, in the course of this book, I shall have occasion to take up this problem at length. Here it suffices to state that even in my earliest youth, I came to the basic insight which never left me, but only became more profound, that Germanism could be safeguarded only by the destruction of Austria. This is what he said. And furthermore, that the national sentiment is in no sense identical with dynastic patriotism, that above all, the House of Habsburg, I don't know why I can't say it, was destined to be the misfortune of the German nation. So this is the first I've heard of the House of Habsburg today, so I was also looking into that. From my understanding, it seems like they're the family that took over the empire, the Roman Empire, and according to Hitler, really did some things that ruined the country of Germany, right? And actually, I want to point out another thing that he said that I thought was a really interesting question when he was talking about like being like patriotic. And he starts out the whole thing talking about how language being attributed to a nation, but a nation knowing nothing more of them, who they are as a people, than language, which I thought was so interesting. Also, I do love the German language. Let's hear what he has to say about his favorite teacher, which was his history teacher, and his thoughts on teaching and how children need to be taught. Because I can't lie, everything he said here, I was like, and this is why I'm homeschooling. So he, this for me. So instruction in world history is the instruction in world history in the so-called high schools is even today is very sorry condition. Few teachers understand that the aim of studying history can never be to learn historical dates and events by heart and recite them by rote. That what matters is not whether the child knows exactly when this or that battle was fought, when a general was born, or even when a monarch, usually a very significant one, came into the crown of his forefathers. To learn history means to seek and find the forces which are the causes leading to those effects which we subsequently perceive as historical events. The art of reading, as of learning, is this: to retain the essential and to forget the non-essential. Now, when he said that, it made me think back to what I was saying in one of my previous videos, where I was saying that the mere fact that I was told that myths and legends are called myths and legends, therefore just stories, for me in my logical mind as like a 8-year-old was like, I'm not listening to none of this, because I'm already trying to remember the information that's actually going to help me. And so that in and of itself is a form of programming. I always had a problem in history at school with this, and we're going to get into his history teacher, because his history teacher sounds like the history teacher we all needed, right? So here's my issue with learning history in school. We're just taught a bunch of stuff. First of all, we're not taught very far back history, which I think is very not coincidental, because obviously if you're just being told about something that happened virtually yesterday, like the last 100 years or so, right? It's very interesting when you look at how different things were, say, 500 years before that. So that's why I found it interesting that he had gone, like, this family that he's talking about goes back really far, and it's really interesting. Anyways, so he says, perhaps it affected my whole latter life that good fortune sent me a history teacher who was one of the few to observe this principle in teaching and examining. Dr. Leopold Posch, my professor at Realschule in Linz, I love how you have to shout these people out. Like, this is like me in my research. It's like, you gotta, when you've had good academic stuff, you gotta shout them out by name. You gotta let the world know Dr. So-and-so, Dr. Yeah, you gotta do it because, yeah. So listen to this. This is where we get to hear the writing of Hitler, right? He embodied this. Embodied this requirement to an ideal degree. This old gentleman's manner was as kind as it was determined. His dazzling eloquence not only held us spellbound, but actually carried us away. Jeez. Even today, I think back with gentle emotion on this grey-haired man. On this grey-haired man who, by the fire of his narratives, sometimes made us forget the present, who, as if by enchantment, carried us into past times, often aflame with enthusiasm and sometimes even moved to tears. What made our good fortune all the greater was that this teacher knew how to illuminate the past by examples from the present, and how from the past to draw inferences for the present. This is what history is supposed to be about. What happened before, so that we need to know what we do now. That's why we have the Bible. That's why we have the Bible. Yeah. And I remember my history teacher always used to say in one of my history classes, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Oh. Let's keep going. Where are we? As a result, he had more understanding than anyone else for all the daily problems. So the history is informing what we're doing today because of the way that they were being taught, which held us breathless. He used our budding nationalistic fanaticism as a means of educating us, frequently appealing to our sense of national honor. By this alone, he was able to discipline us little ruffians more easily than would have been possible by any other means. This teacher made history my favorite subject. I also want to just talk about, this is the thing about learning. I've learned with kids myself. When children are engaged with information that they are enjoying and they're enjoying the process, they automatically behave better. That's why a lot of times people always say to me in places that I've worked, schools and stuff, they're like, we don't know how you keep the kids in behavior in check so well. I'm like, because I keep the kids' minds busy. I keep them excited. You know what I'm saying? They don't shut up in the end because they're all too busy telling everyone wants to talk about what they think about what we're talking about. I'm like, guys, you need to go to your other classes. You need to go home. You know what I'm saying? So, and indeed, though he had no such intention, it was then that I became a little revolutionary. For who could have studied German history under such a teacher without becoming an enemy of the state, which through its ruling house exerted so disastrous an influence on the destinies of the nation? Jeez. And who could retain his loyalty to a dynasty which in past and present betrayed the needs of the German people again for shameless private advantage? Do you know what's really interesting about my day today, right? So I'm getting off. I'm about to come back, right? I've had a long day. I'm thinking I'm going to, because I've just been reading this, I'm thinking I need to film. My brain is thinking, get there and get in front of the camera. And this woman stops me. And she says, there's a reason I'm talking about this. And she says, you guys won't believe the links that are going to happen in this video. She says to me, excuse me, do you know where I can get a cab? I was like, of course I know, because I grew up in this town here. I know the cab number. I was like, I know the cab numbers off by heart. I'm going to give you the cheap one. So I was like, let's do this thing. Now, I could see that she was not really incompetent, but maybe just like distressed and like not in her complete right frame of mind, and was kind of panicking. So But I noticed her accent is from where I'm from, my family, right? And this is where it links up, because my thoughts and where I come from are exactly what Hitler just said. And I'm going to explain how this all factored into this woman who I then met today. Crazy. We actually became friends now. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to help get to the cab. It's the end of the day. I have the time. So we call the cab. I talk to the cab people. We organize where she's going to pick up, blah, blah, blah. Then I walk with her because she seems really distressed. I was like, I'm going to go wait with you. It was by one of the hotels. So I went and waited with her, and then she started to ask me, where am I from? And like, oh, I kind of hate that when people from where I'm from ask me, because the experience I've had like with my own people is just horror. That's why I don't even question moving there. And actually there's another reason, which I'm going to get into in just a second, right? So we're talking. Turns out she's going through a really hard time. Her husband literally kicked her out of the house. So as is the very stresses that us women have to think about when everyone's all talking about they need to be more submissive, she had the worst case scenario situation happen to her this year in February, because her husband kicks her out of the house and makes her homeless, as in chased her out of the house. She was just homeless. She's just managed to get back on her feet. She's just managed to get herself a place to stay, and she's just trying to work and keep her head together. And it was so interesting to talk to her, because she was telling me how she works in mental health, and the doctor was trying to tell her that she needs to go on certain meds, and she was like, I'm not going on any meds. I told them I'm not going on no meds, because I've seen what they do to the patients, and you're going to be putting me in the psychiatric ward. Listen, my life is crazy. I'm depressed and anxious because of what's just happened. I have to build my life now, because I know I have nowhere to live. And I'm thinking, I don't need to hear this right now while I'm like here single, because this is why you know what, there's safety and independence. You know what I'm saying? Because then you can't be kicked out and things. I'm just saying this because sometimes I don't know if people realize, and this is exactly what I would expect from where I come from, by the way, this kind of situation, because again, it's the culture. So anyways, and then it ended really, really sweetly, because she was like, but anyways, I don't even mind because I got God, and so I'm going to make it. And I was like, yes, so finally hearing some freaking power from some people of God. Like, yes, this is happening to me, but I'm not letting it take me down. And that's what stood out to me about her, that I don't attribute to my people where I come from, because it's exactly this, what Hitler just said. Yeah? Are we ready? Are we listening? And who could retain his loyalty to a dynasty which in past and present betrayed the needs of the German people again and again for shameless private advantage. Shameless private advantage. Exactly. That's why I'm so sorry, as a Zimbabwean and whatever, we need to I'm wondering, when is somebody going to rise up? Because, hey, I would have been the one, but I'm not even accepted. I'm told that, oh, you don't even speak the language. You're not proud for where you come from. You just live in the white man's land and this, that, and the other. And so it's not going to be me. Like, I've got other fish to fry. I'm going to rise up for the child trafficking. That's what I'm going to be getting serious about in homeschooling. And ironically, this lady asked me, we were talking about what we do. And she asked me, she's like, oh, I'm teaching. Oh, I need help. She's like, oh, I need help with the maths and stuff because I have my job and they need me to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I've been meeting a lot of adults. I've been helping adults with maths, you guys. Oh my gosh. It's just crazy that happens to me, like just casually, because I helped a lady who needed a cab, and now she's like, oh wow, she's like, I need your help. Like, do you do private lessons? Because I need to do this for my job. Because she's bossing up, because she's getting herself together. She said, I'm gonna get a better qualification than what I have now. So because I need to organize myself. Sis was made homeless in February. I was like, this is why I'm saying winners and losers, victors and victims in this life. And this is why I'm actually so interested in looking at some of the victors in life, whether you like the victory that they had or not. The point is, what is it about them? That's why I'm reading all these things, because I'm trying to learn, what is it about Adolf Hitler? So that's what happened to me today. Just as I was thinking about Adolf Hitler, I was thinking as well about how I felt so uncomfortable when she started to talk to me, because I'm like, I know you, but we're supposed to be from the same nation. This is all the stuff that he's saying. He asked a question early on in the book. It was very interesting. He said, what is the difference between Germans who fight at war and the other Germans? Like, he's asking him very interesting questions. You're catching where I'm going with this. So there's one little bit here that he said that reminded me once again why I want to homeschool, or do I? Yeah. Yeah. Is it that bit? Sorry, there's just so much stuff. There was something he was saying about the beauty of children. Wow, how children are better at retaining information and why. Why can't I find it? Sorry, bear with me. I found it, and it actually leads on to the next thing I wanted to read out of this, right? I need to be out more because I struggle to read at home, but like as soon as I'm like somewhere, I can just lock in. And this is why I was reading a lot last year as well. Anyway, so listen to this, right? So he goes on, prior to this, he starts to talk about the language, the German language, the Germany, Austria. Guys, listen to how nuts this freaking is, yeah? My life is a movie. My friend, the one I was telling you that I spoke to for the first time in like some months. Tell me why this girl, told me that she's booked 3 jobs. She's in musical theatre, right? Get this. I didn't tell you guys what the countries were. Oh yeah, it's countries. 3 different shows, 3 different countries she's done this year. Italy, Germany, Austria. And she's literally got a lead role as a black girl. It is unheard of. This is what I'm talking about. When she told me, she knows every time she tells me I freak out, and I'm like, this is what we do. Like she's gonna be so good. So isn't that interesting? That all of this is just, so I'm going to be having questions, especially because now I happen to end up reading this, which wasn't in the plan. I randomly decided one day. It always starts like that. I just randomly think, I'm going to buy that book. Anyway, let's listen to this, because this is where I was like, this is good, right? Listen to this. He said, so as everywhere and always in every struggle, there were in this fight for the language in Old Austria 3 strata: the fighters, the lukewarm, and the traitors. If this is not so perfect for my life, the fighters, the lukewarm, the traitors. Kind of reminds me of the spiritual battle we're in, if we're talking about, because where else do we hear about lukewarm? When the Lord says you're not even hot, ain't even cold, I'm going to spit you out. That's the world today. The sheep mentality. Oh, we're all just going to color inside the lines because they told us to at school. And we're all going to write with our right hand because they told us to at school. And we're all going to believe myths and legends are myths and legends because they told us that at school. And we're all going to believe whatever we're going to believe because they told us that at school. Yeah. Lukewarm. And then the traitors. The traitors. You guys have no idea. You have no idea. So, yeah, this is what he was talking about. Let's see what he says. The sifting process began at school. Imagine dotting around London on the tubes and buses and things, holding this thing. I never realized how like inflammatory that could be. But anyways, who cares, right? The sifting process began at school. For the remarkable fact about the language struggle is that its waves strike hardest, perhaps in the school, since it is the seed bed of the coming generation. The seed bed. Could that not be truer and more spot on? Listen, this is good. It is a struggle for the soul of a child. It is a struggle for the soul of the child, and to the child, its first appeal is addressed. German boy, do not forget you are German, and little girl, remember that you are to become a German mother. Anyone who knows the soul of youth will be able to understand that it is they who lend their ear most joyfully to such a battle cry. They carry on this struggle in hundreds of forms in their own way and with their own weapons. They refuse to sing un-German songs. The more anyone tries to alienate them from German heroic grandeur, the wilder becomes their enthusiasm. They go hungry to save pennies for the grown-ups battle fund. Their ears are amazingly sensitive to un-German teachers, and at the same time, they're incredibly resistant. They wear the forbidden insignia of their own nationality and are happy to be punished or even beaten for it. Thus, on a small scale, they are a faithful reflection of the adults, except that often their convictions are better and more honest. Here is, ladies and gentlemen, how Adolf Hitler has perfectly explained how brainwashing school can be. Brainwashing the seedbed of the future generations. If you catch them at that age, why do you think we go through childhood trauma? Why do you think that the enemy attacks us in childhood? Why do you think that, it's always the child position? Plant those seeds. That's why everybody's struggling as adults these days with the coping mechanisms, with the therapies, with the everything, because we're having to cut down whole trees now that are just been growing and festering. Exactly as the enemy intended, distracting us so we're not focused on the fact that there are traitors. Now, I want to be very clear, guys. I haven't read through the book, so I'll be very honest. I don't know what my opinion is yet of Adolf Hitler, because I'll be very honest, all I know is what I've been told. And I don't function that way. Okay? Don't function that way with the Lord. I came to know the Lord because I got to know the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And that's why he keeps winning every time. That's why I'm like, this is nice and this is good, but have you seen the writing of the Lord? Excuse me. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so. Oh yeah, this is funny. This bit made me laugh a little bit, because he was saying, oh yeah, in the bit that I just finished, he said, I too, while still comparatively young, had an opportunity to take part in the struggle of nationalities in Old Austria. Collections were taken from Sudmark and the school association. We emphasized our convictions by wearing corn, flowers, and red, black, and gold colors. I was like, not the winning team colors. Do you guys realize how crazy this is? Can you see that? Like, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. So he goes on to say, this will be the end, by the way, of what I'm going to read of Hitler. Hail was our greeting, and instead of the imperial anthem, we sang Deutschland über alles. Do you know how hard it was to find this book, you guys? Do you know how hard it was to find this, to buy online? Oh my gosh, I didn't think about the fact that what YouTube is going to think about these videos. Who cares? Despite warnings and punishments, you say it? Despite warnings and punishments, they were becoming an unstoppable force. This is what I'm trying to understand about Hitler, because Hitler was like, I don't care, I'll write this in prison. I'm in prison and I'm thinking how I'm going to change the world. You know what I'm saying? And it happens if we don't have people doing it on both sides of the coin. This is why I be studying hard with the Lord. I'm like, Lord, I need whatever amount of power that can be withstood within my human body. I'm sick of taking L's, like I was saying, from the place where I come from. We're just here complaining. Year after year, I would hear people complaining about the government. Complaining. Who is going to stand up and rise? Who is going to be a voice? Because listen, whether you like what this man said or not, and everyone's always said it, even in school, they even said it, that he was charismatic and he had a great speech. But you know something that I think people don't give him credit for is that he spoke to a level of patriotism that is rare, especially in the world today, especially right now. Especially when you have, in places like this country, the United States, people can't even be proud to be white, for example, anymore. And then on the other hand, this is my issue with the Black community, is we're all this, we are this race, that race, whatever race. Then let's start taking more freaking W's and stop making excuses. Okay, let's look like black victors, not black victims. It's all this victim talk that I cannot freaking stand for anything. That's why I don't feel like I care when people talk to me about my race and if whatever they say about Black people, because I'm not one of those Black people. I'm a winner. I stay winning. So I'm the representation. You know what I'm saying? That's why when people are like, oh, you're not even proud of being Black. I'm like, bro, I'm more proud of being Black than you are proud of being Black, because I'm proud enough and I love my people and where I come from enough to actually make us look better, to show up. You know what I'm saying? I'm sick of us just taking all these L's in history and all this stuff, yeah? And then just like crying. Boss up, stand up. I'm going to keep saying that to you guys, not to myself, because I've said it too many times and it's not helpful for my mental health. Boss up, stand up. You know what I'm saying? That's what I say to myself always. He used, okay, so yeah, so there you go. You get the point. So this is what I've been thinking about, you guys. Like, we really need to have the power in this life. I can't wait to read more of this. And then you won't believe, just as I bought this book and I was planning to read it that night, this is what I then saw. So in where I live, they have this little thing where they have this like little cupboard thing, like, I don't know, a cabinet kind of thing that's outside. And it's like a community thing where you can bring books and you can also take books for free. So I'm going to drop some books off there myself. And I saw this. And I just saw it from this, like it was on top. And it was like it was meant to be. So I walked over, opened it, and I read, yes, it says, Of Love and War is a genuinely original and moving memoir of World War II centered on the handwritten diaries of an Australian officer, Captain Adrian Kerr-Lewis, who witnessed the fall of Singapore and spent nearly 4 years as a prisoner of the Japanese at Shanghai Gaol, and on the notorious Burma-Thailand Railway. This is insane. Can't wait to delve into this as well. It's all on the same, So what I'm going to say on that note is, this is a really good book. And I think people, again, I really feel like in the body of Christ, it's something I've been really upset about for a while. Like, just us always being like, it was COVID was happening and we were just crying just like everybody else. And we just needed cuddling just like everybody else. And it's like, I'm sick of it. I feel like, I don't know what's happening to me, but like, I've been pushed to the edge. And now it's like, I'm not falling over the cliff. I'm like diving headfirst. Like, I'm jumping like myself, because I'm like, somebody gotta do it. Somebody gotta do it. Isn't it interesting how when it comes to jumping off a cliff, we all have that phrase that parents like to say, like, if somebody else told you to jump off a cliff, would you? That's the example. Maybe we should start jumping off cliffs. Maybe. And on that note, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna call this video. This is nuts. If life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you all. I just want to say, just so it's said, because I know this is the internet, I'm obviously not in favor of killing mass amounts of people. Okay? I just want to make that very clear. Because we live in a very sensitive world. That's why people can't read stuff like this. People can't even hear, because we're so sensitive and we're so like needing to be coddled and so easily offended. Someone will be just offended with the simple fact that I'm reading this. Like, as a black person, it's like, how can you do that? It's like, because I'm not offended by anything. I'm not offended. I'm not harboring unforgiveness. Jesus died on the cross. Jesus died on the cross. You know what I'm saying? We need healing in this world. Anyways, I'm going to actually leave. If life's a game, let's play to win. God bless you all, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye. How do I turn this thing off again?